Welcome, dear listener. Get comfortable, close your eyes if you wish, and let me share with you a story from the desert roads of the American Southwest. This is a tale that happened to me and my brother many years ago, on a stretch of forgotten highway where the old ways still hold power. Some say these stories shouldn't be told after dark, but perhaps in the safety of your bed, with blankets pulled close, you can hear what happened without fear. So settle in, breathe deeply, and let me take you back to that summer when everything changed. The year was 1987, and I was 23 years old. My brother Marcus was 19, fresh out of high school and burning with that restless energy that comes with youth and freedom. We'd grown up in Flagstaff, Arizona, the sons of a Navajo mother and a white father who'd met at Northern Arizona University back when the world seemed simpler. Our childhood was split between two worlds, spending summers on the reservation with our grandmother and winters in the suburbs where strip malls sprawled endlessly under pale skies. That July, Marcus convinced me to take a road trip. He'd been accepted to a college in New Mexico and wanted one last adventure before life got serious. I'd been working construction since graduating, saving money with no clear direction, so when he proposed we drive the old Route 66, I agreed. There was something romantic about it, the Mother Road, they called it, that ribbon of asphalt that once connected Chicago to Los Angeles, carrying dreamers and drifters across the heart of America. We left on a Monday morning, the sun barely cresting the San Francisco peaks as we loaded my beat-up Ford pickup with camping gear, a cooler full of sandwiches, and a case of Coca-Cola. Mom stood on the porch in her bathrobe, coffee mug in hand, watching us with that look mothers have when they know something their children don't. She didn't try to stop us, but as we were pulling away, she called out. "Stay on the main roads," she said. "And if you see anything strange, don't stop. Don't engage. Just keep driving." We laughed it off. Marcus waved enthusiastically, and I honked the horn twice. As we turned the corner, I glanced in the rearview mirror and saw her still standing there, motionless, the morning light making her look small and distant. I didn't know then that it would be the last time she'd see both her sons together. The first day was everything a road trip should be. We drove through Winslow, Arizona, singing along to badly remembered Eagles lyrics. We stopped at the meteor crater, walking the rim and imagining the cosmic violence that had carved that hole in the earth 50,000 years ago. Marcus bought a postcard and wrote a message to a girl he'd been seeing, though he never mailed it. I still have that postcard, yellowed and creased, in a box somewhere. By evening, we'd crossed into New Mexico. The landscape changed subtly, the pine forests giving way to high desert, red rock formati. Awns rising like ancient temples against the deepening blue sky. We made camp off a dirt road near Gallup, far enough from the highway that the silence felt complete. That first night, we built a fire and cooked hot dogs on sticks like we were kids again. Marcus told jokes and imitated our old high school teachers. I remember laughing so hard my ribs hurt. "This is it, man," Marcus said, staring up at the stars. The Milky Way stretched overhead like a river of light. "This is what life's about. Not sitting in some office, not worrying about money or status. Just this. Freedom." I nodded, though part of me envied his certainty. At 23, I already felt the weight of responsibility, the sense that freedom was a young man's game and I was aging out of it. But that night, under those infinite stars, with my brother beside me and the fire crackling, I let myself believe it could be enough. We didn't see it then, watching us from beyond the firelight. But it was there. It had been following us since we left Flagstaff, matching our pace, learning our patterns. Skinwalkers are patient. They can wait. The next day, we continued east on what remained of Route 66. Much of the old road had been replaced by Interstate 40, but there were still stretches where you could find the original pavement, cracked and faded, running parallel to the modern highway. These were the parts Marcus wanted to see, the abandoned gas stations, the faded Burma shave signs, the ghost towns where tumbleweeds collected against collapsed buildings. Around noon, we found ourselves in one such stretch, somewhere between Gallup and Grants. The day was scorching, the kind of heat that makes the air shimmer and turns your thoughts slow and syrupy. We were low on water, and the next town was still 40 miles ahead. That's when we saw the trading post. It appeared suddenly, as if the heat had conjured it. A squat adobe building with a rusted tin roof, sitting alone amid the sagebrush. A wooden sign hung crooked above the door, Red Rock Trading Post, EST 1949. Several old cars from the 1950s sat in various states of decay around the building, their tires long gone, their windshields opaque with dust. "Let's check it out," Marcus said, already unbuckling his seatbelt. I pulled off the road, gravel crunching under the tires. As we got out, the silence hit me like a physical force. No birds. No insects. Just the wind making a low moan as it passed through the gaps in the building. The door stood slightly ajar. Marcus pushed it open, the hinges screaming in protest. Inside, the air was cooler but stale, carrying the smell of dust and old leather. Sunlight filtered through dirty windows, illuminating motes of dust that hung suspended like tiny stars. The place looked frozen in time. Shelves lined the walls, still stocked with merchandise, canned goods with labels I didn't recognize, boxes of detergent from defunct brands, glass bottles of Coca-Cola in the old-fashioned style. A counter ran along one wall, its surface covered with a thick layer of dust. Behind it, a pegboard held keys with faded room numbers attached. "This is incredible," Marcus whispered, running his finger along a shelf. "It's like they just locked up one day and never came back." I was less enchanted. Something about the place felt wrong. There were tracks in the dust on the floor, animal tracks, too large for coyotes, too small for deer. And there was a smell underneath the dust and leather, something organic and unpleasant, like meat left too long in the sun. "We should go," I said. But Marcus had found a display of Native American jewelry, silver and turquoise pieces in a locked glass case. He pressed his face close to the glass, breath fogging it. "Look at this workmanship," he said. "These must be worth a fortune." "They're not ours to take," I said, sharper than I intended. He looked at me, surprised. I wasn't going to take them. I just wanted to look. Before I could respond, we heard it. A sound from somewhere deeper in the building, from a back room beyond our sight. It was a scraping sound, like something heavy being dragged across a wooden floor. We both froze. The sound stopped. In the silence that followed, I could hear my heartbeat in my ears. Then came something else, a voice, low and rasping, speaking in Navajo. I couldn't make out the words, but the tone was wrong, like someone imitating speech without understanding it, the rhythm all off. "Hello," Marcus called out. I grabbed his arm. "Don't." The voice stopped mid-sentence. In the silence that followed, I felt eyes on us, though I couldn't see anyone. My grandmother's stories came back to me then, the warnings she'd given us as children. About the Lushii, the Skinwalkers. About how they could mimic human voices, how they wore the skins of animals, how they were witches who had turned away from the Harmony Way and embraced dark power. "We need to leave," I said. "Now." This time, Marcus didn't argue. We backed toward the door, neither of us willing to turn away from that back room. As we reached the exit, I saw movement in the shadows, something rising from all fours to stand upright, too tall, too thin, its proportions all wrong. We ran to the truck. I fumbled with the keys, dropped them, scooped them up with shaking hands. The engine turned over just as something appeared in the doorway of the trading post. In the bright sunlight, I got a clear look at it. It wore the shape of a man, but the details were wrong. The limbs too long, the joints bending slightly backward. Its face was in shadow, but I could see its eyes, yellow and reflective, like a coyote's eyes caught in headlights. It took one step out of the doorway, and I saw that it was wearing skins, pelts stitched together crudely, tufts of fur still attached. I slammed the truck into drive and hit the gas. Gravel sprayed as we fishtailed back onto the road. In the rearview mirror, I saw the thing stand. In the middle of the road, watching us go. It didn't chase us. It didn't need to. It knew where we were going. We drove for an hour without speaking, the air conditioning blasting, both of us staring straight ahead. Finally, Marcus broke the silence. "What was that?" "I don't know," I lied. "That wasn't a person. That was... I don't want to talk about it." He went quiet again. I could see him trembling slightly, his hands clasped tightly in his lap. I wanted to comfort him, to tell him it was just a vagrant, someone living rough in an abandoned building. But I couldn't bring myself to lie that thoroughly. We both knew what we'd seen wasn't human. We stopped for gas in Grants around 3 in the afternoon. While Marcus went to the bathroom, I called our mother from a payphone outside the station. She answered on the second ring. "Mom, it's Tommy." "What's wrong?" Immediate concern in her voice. "Nothing, we're fine. We're in Grants. I just wanted to check in." "You saw something?" It wasn't a question. I hesitated, watching Marcus through the window of the convenience store, browsing the snack aisle like everything was normal. "Yeah. At an old trading post." "It was." "Mom, what do we do?" She was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice carried the weight of old knowledge, the kind passed down through generations. "Where are you headed?" "East on 66. We were going to camp near Santa Rosa tonight." "No. Stay in motels. Stay around other people. Don't camp alone. And Tommy," she paused, "don't let it separate you. They isolate their prey. Stay together, always." "Is it following us?" "If you saw it, yes. It chose you. I don't know why, but it did. Your grandmother would know what to do, but She trailed off. Our grandmother had passed away the previous winter. Just be careful. Stay on main roads. Stay together." Marcus emerged from the store with chips and sodas. I told Mom we had to go and hung up. As we got back in the truck, I made a decision. Change of plans. "We're staying in a motel tonight." Marcus looked at me. "Why?" "We brought camping gear. Just trust me on this one." He studied my face for a moment, then nodded. "Okay. You're freaked out about that thing at the trading post. I get it. I am too." We drove into the evening, the sun setting behind us, painting the desert in shades of orange and purple. I kept checking the mirrors, looking for, what? A coyote running alongside the road? A bird flying too steadily? The story said skinwalkers could take many forms, could run at impossible speeds. How do you spot something that doesn't want to be seen? We found a motel in Santa Rosa, a small place called the Desert Rose Inn. The neon sign flickered in the gathering darkness, most of the letters burned out so it read D_ERT_OS_I_N. The building was horseshoe-shaped, rooms arranged around a central parking lot with a small pool that looked like it hadn't been used in years. The Claire. K was an elderly white man with a spectacular mustache and kind eyes. "Just the two of you?" "Yeah. 1 room, 2 beds." He slid a registration card across the counter. As I filled it out, he studied us with casual interest. "You boys Navajo?" I nodded. "Thought so. You have your grandmother's eyes." He tapped his own eyes. "Knew a Navajo woman once, long time ago. She taught me some things. Told me stories." He lowered his voice. "Told me about the things that walk at night, wearing stolen skins." I stopped writing and looked up at him. He met my gaze steadily. "If you're running from something, this is a good place to stop. We got salt lines at every threshold. Cedar and sage burned regular. Some of us old-timers remember the proper ways." He pushed a room key across the counter, room 7. "That one's in the middle. Good sight lines all around. And boys?" He waited until we were both looking at him. "Don't open the door after dark. No matter what you hear. No matter who asks." Room 7 was small but clean. 2 double beds with matching floral bedspreads, a TV bolted to the dresser, a bathroom with pink tile. Marcus immediately collapsed on the bed nearest the door, remote in hand, flipping through channels. I pulled the curtains shut tight, checked the lock on the door twice, and sat on my own bed. "You want to tell me what's really going on?" Marcus asked, not looking away from the TV. "What do you mean?" Come on, Tommy. You called Mom. You changed our plans. That old guy at the desk was talking in code. What aren't you telling me? I debated lying, then decided he deserved the truth. You remember Grandma's stories? About the Skinwalkers? He sat up. Yeah. The witches who wear animal skins. But those are just stories. Aren't they? I don't think so. Not anymore. That thing at the trading post was probably just a homeless guy wearing weird clothes. With yellow eyes. Standing 7 feet tall. Moving like that. Marcus didn't answer. On the TV, a sitcom laugh track echoed hollowly. Finally, he said, so what do we do? We stay inside tonight. Tomorrow we keep driving. We get you to your college, and then I go home. We pretend this never happened. And it'll just let us go. I don't know. We ordered pizza from a place down the street, and the delivery driver left it at the door per our request. We ate in silence, watching a movie neither of us cared about. Around 11, Marcus fell asleep, still in his clothes. I turned off the TV and most of the lights, leaving just the bathroom light on with the door cracked. I tried to sleep, but every sound made me alert. The air conditioner cycling on and off. The ice machine down the hall. Doors opening and closing as other guests came and went. Each sound could be nothing. Or it could be something. Around 2 in the morning, I heard scratching at the door. It was subtle at first, like branches scraping in wind, though there were no trees near our room. I sat up slowly, staring at the door. The scratching continued, a methodical sound, as if something was testing the lock. Then came the voice. Tommy. Tommy, open up. I locked myself out. It was Marcus's voice. Perfect in every detail, the slight rasp he got when tired, the Arizona accent he'd never quite shaken. I looked over at the other bed. Marcus was still there, asleep, curled on his side. Tommy, come on, man. It's cold out here. My heart hammered. I wanted to wake Marcus, but I was afraid that any sound, any movement, would tell the thing outside that we were awake and listening. I know you're in there. I can hear you breathing. Still Marcus's voice, but the tone was shifting, becoming petulant. Let me in. Let me in. Let me in. The doorknob began to rattle. Not like someone trying a locked door, but violently, as if something was shaking it with inhuman strength. The noise was loud in the small room, and Marcus stirred, blinking awake. What's, he started. Don't, I whispered. Don't make a sound. He heard the voice then, his own voice, coming from beyond the door. Tommy and Marcus, brothers, blood brothers, bone brothers. Open the door. I want to come in. I need to come in. The old man's salt won't keep me out. Nothing keeps me out forever. Marcus's face went pale. He looked at me, and I saw real fear in his eyes. The fear that comes from confronting something that shouldn't exist, something that violated the rules of reality we'd built our understanding on. The scratching grew more frantic. The door shook in its frame. Through the window, despite the closed curtains, we could see shadows moving, something circling our room. More than one something. 2. 3. They moved wrong, like stop-motion animation, jerky and unnatural. Old man thinks his magic is strong, the voice said, and now it was changing, becoming less like Marcus and more like something imitating human speech. Old man thinks cedar and sage and salt can stop us. But we're patient. We can wait. We waited 40 years for the trading post man. Waited until he was alone. Waited until he forgot to be afraid. We can wait for you too. The trading post man. I thought of those old cars outside, the merchandise from the 1940s and 50s, the dust covering everything. The owner had been taken decades ago, and the building had sat undisturbed since then, a trap waiting for the curious. This went on for hours. The scratching. The voices, sometimes Marcus's voice, sometimes my mother's voice, once our dead grandmother's voice singing a Navajo lullaby. The shadows passing back and forth. The doorknob rattling. But the door held. Whatever protections the old man had put in place, they worked. As dawn approached, the sound stopped. The shadows disappeared. In the gray light of early morning, everything looked normal again. Marcus sat on his bed, knees drawn up, eyes wide. Neither of us had slept. "We should leave," he said. "We should just start driving and not stop until we're out of the state." I nodded. We gathered our things in silence, moving like zombies. When we opened the door, the morning sun was just cresting the horizon, painting everything gold. The parking lot was empty except for a few cars. Everything looked mundane, safe, impossible to reconcile with the night's terror. The old clerk was at the desk, drinking coffee and reading a newspaper. He looked up as we approached. "You boys look rough." "We're leaving," I said, sliding the room key across the counter. He nodded. "Probably wise. It'll follow you, you know. For a while at least. But the farther you get from where you first saw it, the weaker its connection. And it can't cross running water. If you can cross the Pecos River, you might shake it." "How do you know all this?" "Lived here 50 years. Seen things. Learned things." He folded his newspaper. "There's a bridge over the Pecos about 60 miles east. Cross it before noon, don't stop for anything, and you might be okay." We thanked him and left. As we pulled out of the parking lot, I looked back once. He stood in the doorway of the office, watching us go, one hand raised in farewell or warning. The morning drive was tense. Marcus rode shotgun, constantly scanning the desert on both sides of the road. I kept the speedometer at exactly 75, fast enough to make distance but not so fast we'd attract police attention. "Do you think it's still following us?" Marcus asked. "Probably. I can't see anything. That's the point." We passed through several small towns, Cuervo, Newkirk, Santa Rosa again. Each time we saw people going about their normal lives, opening shops, walking dogs, getting coffee. The previous night seemed increasingly unreal. How could that terror exist in the same world as a woman watering her garden, as a kid riding his bike to school? But I knew better. The world had always been bigger and stranger than we admitted. We just didn't usually have to confront that fact. Around 10, we stopped for gas at a lonely station on the outskirts of Fort Sumner. While the tank filled, I went inside to pay and grab supplies. The place was staffed by a teenage girl with purple hair who barely looked up from her magazine. $70 on pump 3, I said, sliding cash across the counter. As she counted out change, movement outside the window caught my eye. A coyote stood in the parking lot, not 50 feet away, staring directly at our truck. At Marcus. As I watched, it opened its mouth, but the sound that came out wasn't a coyote's cry. It was laughter. Human laughter. I grabbed the change and ran outside. "Marcus. Start the truck." He looked confused, then saw the coyote. His face went white. He scrambled into the driver's seat and turned the key. The engine caught just as the coyote began to move. It didn't run like a coyote. It moved like something wearing a coyote's shape badly, joints bending wrong, gait stuttering. And it was fast. Impossibly fast. It covered half the distance to the truck in seconds. I yanked open the passenger door and jumped in. "Drive. Drive." Marcus hit the gas. We lurched forward, tires squealing. In the side mirror, I saw the coyote thing standing where we'd been, watching us. Then it threw back its head and made that sound again, human laughter from an animal throat. "How far to the river?" Marcus's voice was shaking. I checked the map. 30 miles. Maybe less. It's not even trying to hide anymore. He was right. For the first 20 miles, we saw it repeatedly. Sometimes it was the coyote, running parallel to the highway through the desert, matching our speed effortlessly. Sometimes it was a crow, flying overhead, circling. Once, when we slowed for a curve, I saw something large and dark loping through a ravine, too big for a coyote, too wrong for a dog. "Why is it doing this?" Marcus said. "What does it want?" I had been thinking about that. My grandmother's stories suggested skinwalkers hunted for various reasons. Some killed for sport. Some needed human flesh for their dark rituals. Some simply enjoyed spreading fear. But there was another possibility, one that terrified me more. "I think it wants one of us to run," I said. "To separate. Then it would have an easy target. So we stay together. We stay together." The landscape began to change. The flat desert gave way to rolling hills, then to a wide river valley. And there, ahead of us, shining in the late morning sun, was the bridge over the Pecos River. It was an old steel truss bridge, probably built in the 1930s, single lane in each direction. The river below ran brown and swollen from recent rains. We could see the far side, maybe half a mile away. "Almost there," Marcus said. Relief edged his voice. That's when the truck started making a terrible grinding noise. The engine coughed. The temperature gauge jumped into the red. "No," I said. "No, no, no." We were still 200 yards from the bridge when the engine seized completely. The truck rolled to a stop, dead, steam hissing from under the hood. Marcus turned the key. Nothing. Again. Nothing. He looked at me, and I saw the truth in his eyes. This was no mechanical failure. The truck had run fine for 2 days. This was something else. "We run," I said. "We run to the bridge." We got out. The day was hot, cloudless, the sun beating down mercilessly. Behind us, about half a mile back up the road, I could see heat shimmer. Or maybe it wasn't heat. Maybe it was something moving toward us very fast. "Now!" I shouted. We ran. 200 yards sounds like nothing, but carrying backpacks in 100-degree heat, adrenaline turning your legs to rubber, it might as well have been miles. My lungs burned. Sweat poured down my face. Beside me, Marcus panted, his younger legs keeping pace. 100 yards. I could hear something behind us now, footsteps that weren't quite footsteps, too many legs hitting the ground in complex polyrhythms. I didn't. Look back. Looking back would slow us down. 50 yards. The bridge entrance was right there. I could see the river beyond, brown water moving south, the far bank lined with cottonwood trees. Almost safe. Almost. 25 yards. The footsteps were closer. I heard breathing that wasn't human, a wet rasping sound. Marcus was pulling ahead, his youth giving him extra speed. "Don't stop at the bridge," I shouted. "Get across it." He nodded, didn't waste breath on words. 10 yards. 5. The bridge entrance. My feet hit the old concrete, and I felt something change, some tension release. Behind me, the footsteps stopped abruptly. I risked a glance back as I ran. At the edge of the bridge, where highway met structure, 3 figures stood. They wore human shapes, but wrong, distorted, like reflections in warped mirrors. The middle one was tallest, wearing that patchwork of skins we'd seen at the trading post. All 3 stared at us with those yellow eyes. But they weren't crossing. The old man had been right. Running water. They couldn't cross running water. Marcus had reached the center of the bridge. He stopped, bent double, hands on knees, gasping for air. I reached him, equally winded. Together, we turned to look back. The figures still stood there, motionless. Then, in perfect synchronization, they tilted their heads, that same unnatural angle. The tall one raised one hand, pointing at us. Its mouth opened, and it spoke in a voice that carried clearly across the distance despite the river rushing below. "One journey ends. Another begins. We'll see you again, brothers. In the dark places. In the lonely times. When you think you're safe. We'll be there." Then they were gone. Not walking away, not running. Just gone, like they'd been erased from reality. We stood on that bridge for 20 minutes, neither of us willing to go back, neither quite ready to move forward. Finally, a truck approached from the east, and we had to walk to the far side to let it pass. The driver, an older Hispanic man, pulled over. "You boys okay? Truck break down?" "Yeah," I said. "Back there. By the bridge entrance." He nodded. "I can give you a lift to Fort Sumner. There's a mechanic there who can tow it." We climbed into the bed of his truck. As we drove away, I watched the bridge recede behind us. Our truck sat there, abandoned, and for a moment I thought I saw something moving around it, something on all fours. Then we rounded a curve, and it was gone. The mechanic in Fort Sumner was skeptical about the truck's location but agreed to tow it. "Probably just overheated," he said. "Happens in this weather." But when he brought it back 3 hours later, he looked troubled. "Damn this thing. Nothing wrong with it. Engine's fine. Temperature gauge is working perfectly. Started right up." We thanked him, paid him for the tow, and left. Neither of us mentioned the impossibility of it. What would be the point? We drove the rest of the way to Albuquerque. In silence. The landscape changed as we descended from the high plains, volcanic mesas, ancient pueblos, the Rio Grande Valley spreading out below us. By evening, we reached the city limits. Marcus's college was on the west side, a small liberal arts school with a pretty campus. We found his dormitory, a 3-story brick building, and carried his stuff up to room 214. His roommate hadn't arrived yet, so he got first pick of beds. He chose the one by the window. "You could stay tonight," he said. "Drive back tomorrow." I shook my head. "I need to get back. Mom's worried." "Will you tell her what happened?" "Some of it. Not all." "You?" "I don't know. Maybe I'll just try to forget it." We stood there awkwardly, two brothers who'd been through something neither fully understood. Finally, Marcus hugged me, hard. "Thanks for keeping me safe," he said. We kept each other safe. I left as the sun was setting. The drive back to Flagstaff would take about 4 hours. I figured I'd be home by midnight. The highway was nearly empty, just the occasional semi passing the opposite direction, headlights briefly illuminating my cab before plunging back into darkness. Around 9, my truck phone rang. It was Marcus. "Hey," I said. "Forget something?" "Tommy, listen. I've been thinking about what that thing said. One journey ends, another begins. What if it meant? Don't think about it. It's over." "Is it though? What if it's still following one of us? What if by separating, we made it easier?" "Marcus, you're just freaked out. It can't cross the river. We're safe." "How do you know?" "Because some old motel clerk said so. He also said it would follow us. He said it would get weaker but not that it would stop." "What do you want me to do? Turn around?" "No. I don't know. Just, call me when you get home, okay? Let me know you made it safe." "I will. Try to get some sleep." "Yeah. You too." I hung up. The highway stretched ahead, empty and dark. In the distance, I could see the lights of a town, but they seemed impossibly far away. The desert at night is a different world, darker than city dwellers can imagine, vast and indifferent to human concerns. That's when I saw it in my rearview mirror. A pair of headlights, far behind but closing fast. Too fast for the speed limit. Way too fast. I pressed down on the gas pedal, watching the speedometer climb. 70. 80. 85. The headlights kept gaining. And something was wrong about them. They were too high off the ground, and they didn't move like a normal vehicle. They swayed from side to side, and occasionally they'd dip down, disappearing completely, then reappear closer. Not headlights. Eyes. Yellow eyes, reflecting my taillights. I floored it. The old Ford shook, the engine screaming. 90 miles an hour on a dark highway, and still those eyes gained. They were 50 yards back. 40. 30. My phone rang again. Marcus. Tommy. I saw something outside my window. Oh. And the ground, 3 stories up, something was. I know. It's here too. It's chasing me. What do we do? 20 yards. I could see it clearly now in my mirrors. Something huge, running on all 4s but jointed all wrong. Its mouth hung open, impossibly wide, full of too many teeth. Get somewhere public. I shouted. Get around other people. The line went dead. 10 yards. 5. I could hear it now over the engine noise, that wet breathing, the sound of too many limbs hitting pavement. Up ahead, I saw lights. The town, Grants, I thought. I just had to make it to the town. I pushed the truck even harder, 95 now, the steering wheel shaking in my hands. The thing behind me suddenly put on a burst of speed. It drew alongside my truck, keeping pace in the oncoming lane. I risked a glance. In the light of the dashboard, I saw its face. It was wearing a human face now, badly, like a mask that didn't quite fit. The features were distorted, the eyes too large, the mouth a gaping wound. Then it swerved toward me, trying to force me off the road. I jerked the wheel right, onto the shoulder. Gravel and sand sprayed. The truck fishtailed, but I managed to hold it steady. The town was right there, a quarter mile ahead. The thing tried again, slamming into my driver's side. Metal shrieked. My window cracked but didn't break. I could smell it now, that rotting meat smell from the trading post, thick and overwhelming. We hit the first buildings. A gas station, closed for the night but with lights on. A convenience store, open late, several cars in the lot. People. Witnesses. Reality. The thing fell back. In my mirror, I saw it slow, drop behind, then stop in the middle of the highway. It stood there on its hind legs, 7 feet tall, and raised one arm in what might have been a wave or a threat. Then it turned and loped back the way we'd come. Toward Albuquerque. Toward my brother. I pulled into the convenience store lot so hard I nearly hit a gas pump. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold my phone as I called Marcus. It rang. And rang. And rang. Come on, come on, come on. Voicemail. I called again. Same result. I called the dormitory's main number, but it just rang without answer. After 9, the front desk would be closed. I tried to think clearly through the panic. The thing was heading back toward Albuquerque. Toward Marcus. It would take me 3 hours to get there, maybe longer in the dark on these roads. But I had to try. I ran into the convenience store. A young guy behind the counter looked up from his phone, startled by my frantic entrance. I need to use your phone, I said. Mine's not working right. He pushed the corded phone across the counter. I dialed campus security at the college, a number Marcus had given me earlier. A bored-sounding woman answered. University of Albuquerque Security. I need you to check on a student. Marcus Benally, room 214 in Morrison Hall. His brother just called and he's not answering. I'm worried something happened. Sir, we can't just check on students because they're not answering their phone. If there's an actual emergency. There is an emergency. Please, just send someone to his room. Make sure he's okay. Tell him to go somewhere public, somewhere with lots of people. She sighed. I'll send an officer to check. Can I have your name and callback number? I gave her the convenience store's number and my name. How long will it take? Officers on the other side of campus. Maybe 15 minutes. 15 minutes. Anything could happen in 15 minutes. I thanked her and hung up. The clerk was staring at me. You okay, man? You look like you've seen a ghost. Something like that. Can I buy some coffee? Help yourself. I poured a large cup, my hands still trembling, spilling some on the counter. I left a $10 bill and walked back to my truck. The night was quiet now, just the hum of the convenience store's lights and the distant sound of traffic on the interstate. I sat in the truck, engine running, and waited. Every minute felt like an hour. I watched the payphone through the store window, willing it to ring. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, it did. I ran back inside. Hello. Mr. Benali. This is campus security. We checked on your brother. He's fine. A little shaken up, said something spooked him, but he's physically okay. We've moved him to the student center for the night. There's a 24-hour study area there, lots of other students around. The relief hit me so hard I had to lean against the wall. Thank you. Thank you so much. Can I talk to him? He's right here. A moment later, Marcus's voice came through, strained but alive. Tommy. I'm here. You okay? Yeah. Yeah, I think so. It was outside my window, Tommy. 3 stories up, and it was just hanging there. Looking at me. Then security showed up and it was gone. Stay in the student center. Don't go anywhere alone. I'm coming to get you. What about the river? Didn't we cross it? Aren't we supposed to be safe? I don't know anymore. I don't know the rules. But I'm coming. Just stay around people until I get there. Okay. Okay. Tommy. Drive safe. Don't speed. Don't do anything that puts you in danger. I will. See you in a few hours. I hung up and headed back to my truck. The clerk called after me, "Hey man, whatever you're running from. I hope you outrun it." I nodded and left. The drive to Albuquerque was the longest 3 hours of my life. I kept the radio on, volume high, anything to keep me alert and distract from the shadows that seemed to move at the edge of my headlights. Every animal by the roadside, every bird flying overhead, every car that passed made my heart rate spike. But nothing happened. The journey was uneventful, almost mundane. It was past midnight when I pulled into the college parking lot. The student center was a modern building, all glass and steel, brilliantly lit. From inside, through the windows I could see dozens of students studying, talking, eating late-night snacks from vending machines. Marcus sat at a table near the center of the room, surrounded by people, a textbook open in front of him, though I doubted he was reading it. When he saw me walk in, the relief on his face mirrored what I'd felt hours earlier. "Let's go," I said. "Let's go home." "What about school? You can start next semester. Right now, we need to get back to Flagstaff. Back to Mom. She'll know what to do." We gathered his things from the dorm, Marcus refusing to go alone, me standing watch while he packed. Within an hour, we were back on the road, heading west through the night. This time we drove straight through, no stops except for gas in well-lit stations. We saw nothing unusual. No yellow eyes. No impossible animals. Just the dark desert and the endless white line dividing the highway. We reached Flagstaff as dawn was breaking, the San Francisco peaks pink with alpenglow. Mom's car was in the driveway. We'd called ahead, so she was waiting on the porch, a blanket wrapped around her shoulders despite the warm morning. She didn't say anything as we got out, just pulled us both into a hug. I felt 10 years old again, safe in my mother's arms, believing she could protect us from anything. "Inside," she said. "We need to talk." Mom had been busy while we were gone. The house smelled of sage and cedar. Bundles of dried herbs hung over every doorway. On the kitchen table sat items I recognized from my grandmother's house, a medicine bundle, a clay pot with cornmeal, several stones with symbols painted on them in white clay. "Sit," she said. We sat. She poured us coffee, then sat down herself, looking older than I'd ever seen her look. "Tell me everything." We did. Every detail, from the trading post to the motel to the chase and Marcus's dorm room. She listened without interrupting, her face growing more serious as the story progressed. When we finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Finally, she spoke. "Your grandmother warned me this might happen. She said the Skinwalkers were getting bolder, moving beyond the reservation. She said they were drawn to young men of the people, especially those with power they hadn't learned to control yet." "Power?" Marcus said. "We don't have any power. Your grandmother was a medicine woman. I have some of her gifts, though I never trained properly. That blood is in you too. The Skinwalkers can sense it. They're drawn to it. They want to corrupt it, or destroy it, or claim it for themselves. So what do we do?" I asked. "How do we stop it?" "You can't stop it. Not directly. Skinwalkers are powerful, and they've broken all the taboos that limit normal people. But you can protect yourselves. You can make yourselves unappealing as targets." She stood and walked to the medicine bundle on the table. "Your grandmother prepared this before she died. I think she knew, somehow, that you'd need it. There are protections here. Prayers. Sacred objects. But they only work if you believe in them. If you commit to walking in the beauty way." "I don't understand," Marcus said. Mom sat back down, taking our hands. "The Skinwalkers have power because they rejected harmony. They chose chaos, destruction, selfish desire. The only thing that truly protects against them is the opposite, balance, community, walking in beauty. You have to commit to that. Not just carrying talismans, but living it. And if we don't?" I asked. "Then it will keep hunting you. Maybe not every day. Maybe not for months. But it will be there, in the shadows, waiting for a moment of weakness. Waiting for you to be alone, or afraid, or angry enough that you forget to maintain balance. And then..." She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. Over the next 3 days, Mom taught us what she knew. Some of it came from her mother, some from books, some from other medicine people she knew. We learned prayers in Navajo, songs we'd heard as children but never understood. We learned about corn pollen and how to use it for blessing. We learned which herbs offered protection and which drew negative energy. Most importantly, we learned about Hazo, the Navajo concept of beauty, harmony, and balance. It wasn't just an aesthetic idea, it was a way of being. Walking in balance with nature, with other people, with yourself. The Skinwalkers had power because they'd abandoned this. Our protection came from embracing it. "It sounds too simple," Marcus said on the 3rd day. "Just, be good. That stops an actual monster." "It's not about being good," Mom corrected. "It's about being balanced. The Skinwalkers are unbalanced, chaotic. They can't exist where true balance exists. It's like..." She searched for an analogy, like how darkness isn't a thing in itself, just the absence of light. The Skinwalker's power is the absence of harmony. Bring harmony, and there's no space for it to exist. "But I felt it," I said. "It was real. Physical. It chased my truck. It was real. But it was also limited. Think about it, it couldn't cross running water. It couldn't enter the motel room. It couldn't touch you when you were together in public places. These aren't arbitrary rules. They're manifestations of the same principle. Moving water is constant change, constant balance. The motel had protections, yes, but also it was a place of hospitality, of people gathering. The Skinwalker is solitary, antisocial. It literally couldn't exist in those spaces. I thought about that. About how it had only appeared when we were isolated. About how it had vanished in Grants when I reached the populated area. About how it had fled Marcus's dorm when security arrived. So we just, never be alone. For a while, yes. And you maintain the protections. You pray. You stay mindful. Eventually, it will give up. There are easier targets than 2 young men who know what they're facing in Ho.W. to protect themselves. Marcus stayed in Flagstaff that fall instead of going to college. He got a job at a local bookstore and took classes at the community college. We lived together in a small apartment, neither of us willing to be alone. Every morning we woke up and performed the blessing ritual Mom had taught us. Every evening we burned cedar and sage. We carried our grandmother's medicine bundle with us, split between two pouches we each wore around our necks. For the first month, we were hypervigilant. Every shadow was suspect. Every animal we saw might be the Skinwalker watching us. We jumped at sudden noises. We avoided being out after dark. We turned down invitations to parties or events where we'd be separated. Our friends thought we were having some kind of breakdown. We couldn't exactly explain the truth. Even if we tried, who would believe us? We barely believed it ourselves while it was happening. But as weeks turned to months, nothing happened. No yellow eyes in the darkness. No scratching at windows. No voices mimicking our loved ones. Life returned to something like normal. Marcus met a girl at the bookstore, Sarah, a graduate student studying anthropology. They started dating, and he began to relax, to believe maybe it was really over. I went back to construction work, picked up where I'd left off, started saving money again. By December, 6 months after our encounter, we both let our guard down. We still performed the morning blessing, but it had become routine, mechanical. We still carried the medicine pouches, but they'd become just jewelry, something we wore without thinking about. That's when it came back. I was working late on a construction site on the edge of town, renovating an old warehouse. Most of the crew had left at 5, but I'd stayed to finish framing a wall, wanting to be ahead of schedule. It was just after 7 when I heard the sound. Scratching. On metal. The warehouse had a tin roof, and something was moving across it, claws scraping against the corrugated surface. I froze, hammer in hand. The scratching moved from one end of the building to the other, directly overhead, then stopped. In the silence that followed, I heard breathing. Not wind. Breathing. Then a voice, floating down from the rafters. Tommy Benali. You thought we'd forgotten. Not my voice this time. Not Marcus's. Something else. Something that hurt to hear, like broken glass dragged across concrete. 6 months you've made us wait. 6 months of watching from a distance. But you've grown comfortable. Complacent. The prayers ring hollow now. The protections weaken. We can feel it. I wanted to run, but I was 40 feet from the exit. The warehouse was empty of people, full of shadows. Every corner could hide something. Every pile of materials could conceal a predator. We've learned patience, the voice continued. We've learned to wait for the perfect moment. And this is it. You. Alone. Tired. Not quite believing Namor. The perfect prey. Something dropped from the rafters behind me. I spun, raising the hammer. In the dim light of the work lamps, I saw it clearly for the first time, not in glimpses or shadows but fully visible. It stood on 2 legs but bent forward, like it was more comfortable on all 4s. Its body was covered in a patchwork of skins, coyote, deer, something else I didn't recognize. But the face. The face was almost human. Almost. The proportions were wrong, the eyes too large and yellow, the mouth too wide. When it smiled, I saw teeth that belonged to no animal I knew. Run, it said. We like it when they run. I ran. Not toward the exit, it was between me and the door, but deeper into the warehouse, into the maze of materials and equipment. Behind me, I heard laughter and the sound of pursuit, not running but loping, taking its time. I ducked behind a pallet of bricks, my heart hammering. My hand found the medicine pouch around my neck. I gripped it, trying to remember the prayers Mom had taught us. But in my panic, the words wouldn't come. 6 months of rote recitation, and now when I needed them, they were gone. The loping stopped. I held my breath, straining to hear over my own heartbeat. Where was it? Lost the words, the voice said, from much closer than I expected. That's what happens when you stop believing. The power fades. The protection weakens. Your grandmother would be disappointed. It was on the other side of the pallet. 6 feet away, maybe less. I could smell it, that rotting meat smell. I looked around desperately for a weapon, for an escape route, for anything. My eyes fell on a bucket of nails. Next to it, a can of paint thinner. And suddenly I remembered, not a prayer, but something my grandmother had told me once. Fire. Skinwalkers feared fire because fire was transformation, purification, the ultimate expression of change and renewal. I grabbed the paint thinner with one hand, a road flare from a safety kit with the other. The Skinwalker heard the movement and came around the pallet fast, too fast, its hand, if you could call it a hand, reaching for me. I popped the flare, struck it, and threw it into the paint thinner I'd splashed on the ground between us. The flames erupted instantly, a wall of fire separating us. The Skinwalker recoiled, screeching, a sound like no animal I'd ever heard. In the firelight, I saw it clearly, and for a moment the disguise dropped. Not an animal wearing skins. Not even a person. Something else entirely, something old and hungry and completely alien to the world of daylight and human concerns. Then it was running, back toward the rafters, back toward the roof. I heard it scramble up and across, heard the metal roof groan under its weight. Then silence. I grabbed a fire extinguisher and put out the flames before they could spread, then ran for the exit. I didn't stop running until I reached my truck. I called Marcus while driving, breaking at least 5 traffic laws. Get ing home. It came back, I said when he answered. It's not done with us. We sat in Mom's living room that night, the 3 of us, discussing our options. Marcus wanted to leave the state, go somewhere far away where skinwalkers didn't exist. Mom shook her head. They exist everywhere now. They're not bound to the reservation anymore. If it's marked you, it will follow. Distance won't help. So what do we do? I asked. Wait for it to pick us off one by one. No, she said. We end this. But to end it, you need to understand what you're really fighting. It's not just a monster. It's a person who chose to become a monster. And like all people, it has weaknesses beyond just salt and sage and running water. She pulled out a photo album, flipping through pages of old pictures. She stopped on one from the 1970s, showing our grandmother standing with several other people in traditional dress. One face in the photo made me stop cold. I recognized those eyes, even in a faded photograph. His name was Raymond Begay, Mom said. He was your grandmother's cousin. A Hatalii, a medicine man, or training to be one. But he became obsessed with power. He wanted shortcuts, wanted to be the most powerful medicine man on the reservation. Your grandmother tried to warn him about the dark path, but he didn't listen. One day he disappeared. 6 months later, people started dying. Animals found mutilated. Children going missing. And Raymond was never seen again. But something else was seen. Something in the shape of Raymond, but wrong. That's it. Marcus said. That's the Skinwalker. We think so. Your grandmother spent years trying to find a way to stop him. She gathered information, consulted with other medicine people, learned the old ways that most had forgotten. She believed there was a way to end it, but she died before she could act. And you know how? I asked. I know some. Not all. But your grandmother left notes. Instructions. They're in Navajo, and my understanding of the language isn't perfect, but I've translated what I can. She pulled out a worn notebook, pages covered in my grandmother's careful handwriting. It requires 4 things. The name of the person who became the Skinwalker. We have that, Raymond Begay. A blood relative willing to confront it. That's you too. An object from the Skinwalker's human life, something it valued before the transformation. And finally, a place of power where the confrontation must happen. What object? How do we get something from 50 years ago? Mom smiled slightly. Your grandmother was thorough. She kept some of Raymond's belongings after he disappeared, things he'd left at her house. She knew, even then, that someone might need them someday. She pulled out a small box and opened it. Inside was a silver bracelet, tarnished with age, with traditional Navajo designs. And the place of power? That, she said, is more complicated. It has to be a place where the boundary between the physical and spiritual world is thin. A place sacred to the dying people. And it has to be a place the Skinwalker can be lured to. The trading post, I said suddenly. That old red rock trading post where we first saw it. That's where it was waiting. That's its territory. Mom nodded slowly. It's possible. Your grandmother's notes mention that skinwalkers often return to the site of their first kill. If Raymond killed the owner of that trading post back in the 1940s, he might be bound to that place in some way. So we go back there, Marcus said. We confront it. And then what? How do we actually kill it? You don't kill it, Mom said quietly. You restore it. You give it the chance to remember what it was before it chose darkness. You offer it the path back to Hazo, to balance. That's what the ritual your grandmother designed does. It's not a weapon. It's a healing ceremony. And if it doesn't want to be healed? I asked. Mom closed the notebook. Then it consumes itself. The ceremony creates a space where only balance can exist. The Skinwalker, being fundamentally unbalanced, cannot survive in that space. It will either return to harmony or cease to exist. We spent the next 2 weeks preparing. Mom taught us the ceremony, making us practice it over and over until we could perform it without thinking. We fasted. We prayed. We gathered the materials we'd need: cornmeal, sacred tobacco, herbs, the bracelet, and 4 perfect stones from a nearby creek. Marcus wanted to call Sarah, to say goodbye in case things went wrong, but Mom advised against it. No goodbyes. Goodbyes are endings. This is a transformation, not an ending. You'll see her again. Finally, on a cold morning in late December, we loaded up my truck and headed east on Route 66. Mom came with us this time, sitting in the passenger seat, silent and focused. Marcus sat in back, the medicine bundle in his lap, reviewing the ceremony steps in his head. The drive took most of the day. We didn't stop except for gas, and we didn't talk much. What was there to say? We were driving toward a confrontation with something that shouldn't exist, armed with prayers and belief and the memory of a grandmother who prepared for this moment decades ago. The sun was setting when we reached the trading post. It looked exactly as I remembered: the same adobe building, the same rusted cars, the same feeling of wrongness. We pulled off the road, and I killed the engine. Are you sure about this? Marcus asked. Mom turned to look at both of us. Nothing in this world is certain. But your grandmother was wise, and she knew what she was doing. Trust in that. Trust in the ceremony. Trust in each other. We got out. The evening air was cold, carrying the smell of sage and dust. The trading post door stood open, just as it had 6 months ago. We could feel it watching us from inside, feel its attention like a physical weight. We need to prepare the space first, Mom said. Before it appears. We formed a circle 30 feet from the building. Mom directed us, showing where to place the stones at the 4 cardinal directions. We sprinkled cornmeal, drew symbols in the dust, set small fires of sage and cedar at each point. As we worked, the sun dipped below the horizon, and darkness rushed in like a tide. When the circle was complete, Mom stepped back. Now you call it. You say its name. You demand that it face you not as a monster but as the man it once was. Marcus and I stood in the center of the circle, holding hands, the medicine bundle between us. We spoke together, our voices shaking slightly. Raymond Begay. Cousin of our grandmother. We call you by your true name. We know what you were. We know what you've become. We demand that you face us. We demand that you remember. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the door of the trading post slammed shut. And then open. Shut. Open. Faster and faster, until it was just a blur of motion and sound. The windows shattered outward, glass spraying into the parking lot. The rusted cars began to shake, their horns blaring though they had no power, their radios crackling with static and voices. And then it came out. Not on all fours this time. It walked upright, and for the first time I could see the man it had been. Tall, probably handsome once, with strong features. But those features were distorted now, stretched over something that was no longer quite human. It wore the skins, yes, but underneath you could see the corruption, the wrongness that came from decades of feeding on fear and death. It stopped at the edge of our circle. The sage smoke rose between us like a wall. It couldn't cross. Not yet. You dare speak that name, it said, and the voice was different now. More human. But filled with rage. That name is dead. I left it behind. I became something greater. You became something broken, Mom said from outside the circle. You sought power and found only emptiness. You fed on others because you couldn't feed yourself. But it's not too late, Raymond. It's never too late to return to balance. It laughed, but the sound was bitter. Balance? What good is balance? I was weak when I walked in balance. Now I'm strong. I'll live forever. You're not living, I said, surprising myself with the steadiness of my voice. You're just not dead. There's a difference. The Skinwalker's attention snapped to me. You. You who ran from me. You who burned me with fire. You think you understand? You think 6 months of prayer makes you a medicine man? No, I said. But I understand that you're lonely. I saw it in your eyes at the bridge. You're desperate. That's why you won't leave us alone. You need us to fear you because fear is the only connection you have left to humanity. Something flickered in those yellow eyes. Something that might have been pain. Marcus stepped forward, holding out the bracelet. This was yours. Our grandmother kept it for 50 years. She never gave up on you, Raymond. She believed that somewhere inside, the man you'd been still existed. She prepared this ceremony not to destroy you, but to save you. The Skinwalker stared at the bracelet. For a moment, the skin seemed to flicker, and I saw the man underneath more clearly. Younger. Afraid. I can't go back, it whispered. I've done too much. Killed too many. I can't. You can't undo the past, Mom said gently. But you can end it. You can stop adding to the darkness. You can make the choice, right now, to return to harmony. Or you can choose to end. Either way, this is finished. And if I refuse? Then we'll send you to a place where you can't hurt anyone else, I said. Grandmother gave us that power too. But we'd rather give you the choice. The Skinwalker was silent for a long time. Around us, the wind had picked up, howling through the desert. The sage fires burned brighter, their smoke forming shapes that almost looked like people ancestors, maybe, watching to see what would happen. Tell me how, Raymond Begay said finally, and the voice was fully human now. Tired. Old. Tell me how to end this. Mom guided him through the steps. He had to enter the circle willingly, which meant we had to break part of it and remake it with him inside. It was dangerous if he changed his mind, if the monster reasserted itself, we'd be trapped with him. But it was the only way. He stepped across the line of cornmeal, flinching as if it burned him. Up close, without the barrier between us, he looked even more wrong. The skins hung loose, and underneath I could see how thin he'd become, how wasted. Whatever this existence was, it had hollowed him out. We reformed the circle, the 4 of us now inside it. The sage fires burned at the cardinal points. Mom began to chant in Navajo, a long prayer I didn't fully understand but could feel the power of. Marcus and I joined in where we could, following her lead. As we chanted, Mom took the bracelet and placed it on Raymond's wrist. He gasped as it touched his skin, smoke rising where the silver met his flesh. But he didn't pull away. Remember, Mom said. Remember who you were. Remember your mother's face. Remember your first ceremony. Remember the dawn on the day you were born. Remember beauty. Remember balance. Remember Hazo? Raymond's eyes closed. Tears ran down his distorted face, cutting tracks through decades of dust and ash. The skins began to smoke, then to burn, but with a cold blue flame that gave no heat. They fell away piece by piece, revealing the man underneath. He was old. Ancient. 90 years old at least, maybe more. I didn't know exactly when he transformed. But as the skins burned away, he looked less monstrous and more just tired. Tired and sad and very, very old. I remember, he whispered. I remember my mother singing. I remember my first sheep. I remember the medicine man who trained me, the one I betrayed. I remember the trading post owner, how he looked at me with trust even as He broke off, sobbing. I remember everything. All of it. Every death. Every moment of fear I caused. How do I live with remembering? You don't have to, Mom said gently. That's the gift of the ceremony. You can let it go. You can cross over to where your ancestors wait. They'll help you carry the burden. They'll help you find your way back to balance. Will they forgive me? That's not for me to say. But they'll give you the chance to make peace with what you've done. The blue flames burned brighter. Raymond looked at Marcus and me. I'm sorry I hunted you. I'm sorry I tried to make you like me. I was alone for so long, I thought if I could corrupt others, drag them down to my level, maybe I wouldn't be alone anymore. But that's not how it works. The darkness only grows if you feed it. We know, I said. We almost fed it. We almost let fear and anger consume us. But our grandmother taught us a different way. She was always the strong one, Raymond said with something like a smile. Even when we were young, she knew. She tried to warn me. I didn't listen. He looked down at his hands, which were almost fully human now, though still so very old. I'm ready. I'm tired. I want to rest. Mom nodded. She reached into the medicine bundle and brought out the final element, corn pollen, sacred and yellow. She made a line from each of the 4 directions, converging on Raymond. Then she placed a pinch of pollen on his head, his shoulders, his hands, his heart. Go in beauty, she said. Walk the path our ancestors walked. Return to harmony. Be at peace, Raymond began. The blue flames became golden. They rose from his body like reverse rain, flowing upward into the star-filled sky. Raymond's form became translucent, insubstantial. For just a moment, I saw him as he must have been at 20, handsome, proud, full of promise. He smiled, a real smile, free of pain. Thank you, he said. And then he was gone. The flames guttered out. The circle remained, but it felt different now, not protective but peaceful. The wrongness that had hung over the trading post was gone. The building was just a building again, abandoned and mundane. We stood there in silence for a long time, none of us quite willing to move, to break the spell. Finally, Marcus spoke. Is it really over? Yes, Mom said. It's over. He's returned to balance. The corruption is gone. What about the trading post? I asked. What about the owner he killed? Shouldn't we? Look, Mom said, pointing. In the doorway of the trading post, a figure stood. An older white man in clothes from the 1940s, translucent like Raymond had been, but smiling. He raised one hand in thanks, then turned and walked back into the building. A moment later, he was gone too. He was trapped here, Mom said. Trapped by the violence of his death. Raymond's passing freed him. He can move on now too. We packed up the ceremonial materials in silence. The stones, the cornmeal, the ashes of the sage. As we worked, the first light of dawn began to touch the eastern horizon. By the time we finished, the sun was rising, painting the desert in shades of gold and rose. Look at that, Marcus said softly. Hazo. Mom smiled. Yes. Beauty. Balance. Harmony. This is what we protected. This is what's worth protecting. We drove back to Flagstaff as the sun climbed higher. This time, the desert didn't feel hostile or alien. It felt like home. By the time we reached the city, it was mid-morning, and the world was going about its normal business, people going to work, kids playing in yards, life continuing in all its mundane beauty. The weeks that followed were strange. Not because anything supernatural happened, nothing did, but because of how aggressively normal everything became. It was like the universe was overcorrecting, making sure we understood that the crisis had passed. Marcus enrolled at the University of Albuquerque for the spring semester. This time, we drove him down without incident. We saw no mysterious animals, heard no scratching at windows. The road was just a road, the desert just a desert. Sarah met us at the dorm, and I saw immediately why Marcus liked her. She had an easy laugh and kind eyes, and she didn't ask too many questions about why Marcus had deferred his admission. Some people just have good instincts about when not to pry. You'll look out for him? I asked her as we were leaving. Always, she said. Though something tells me he's tougher than he looks. He is, I agreed. He really is. I went back to construction work. Winter in Flagstaff meant slower business, but I picked up enough jobs to stay busy. I started saving money again, this time with a clearer goal. I wanted to go back to school, maybe study engineering or architecture. The events of that summer had taught me that life was too short to drift without purpose. Mom went back to her teaching job at the elementary school, but she also started offering traditional blessing ceremonies on weekends. Word spread quietly through the native community that she knew the old ways, that she could perform protections and healings. She never charged money, but people brought gifts, food, blankets, handmade items. Our house became a gathering place. One evening in February, I came home to find her sitting at the kitchen table with a middle-aged Navajo man I didn't recognize. They were talking in low voices, and I could see he was troubled. Tommy, this is Albert Yazzie, Mom said. He's having some problems with his daughter. Strange things happening around their house. I sat down, poured myself coffee. What kind of strange things? Albert looked at me with haunted eyes. Animals acting weird. Scratching at night. My daughter says something watches her window. I thought it was nothing, but then. He pulled up his sleeve, showing deep scratches on his forearm. These appeared last night. I was alone in my bedroom. Door locked. Nobody there. I felt a chill run down my spine. How old is your daughter? 16. She's gifted. Her grandmother was a medicine woman. The talent runs in the family. I looked at Mom. She nodded slightly. We can help, I said. We know what you're dealing with. And we know how to stop it. Over the next few months, we helped 3 other families. The word spread quietly, as these things do. The son of a medicine woman and her sons who knew how to deal with skinwalkers. We never sought it out, never advertised. But people found us. Each case was different. One was a young man who'd gone exploring old ruins and brought something back with him. Another was a family living on land where a dark ceremony had been performed decades earlier. The third was a teenage girl whose boyfriend had gotten involved with drugs and the wrong people, and something had followed him to her house. We helped them all. Sometimes it was just protection ceremonies and teaching them to maintain balance. Sometimes it required more, confrontations like the one we'd had with Raymond, ceremonies to banish or release or restore. Mom led most of these, but Marcus and I learned by doing. We became, in our own way, what our grandmother had been, people who stood between the dark and the light, helping others find their way back to harmony. It wasn't easy. Some nights I still woke up from nightmares, remembering yellow eyes and scratching sounds. Some days the weight of what we'd seen and done felt too heavy. But then I'd perform the morning blessing, or I'd get a call from someone we'd helped telling me their daughter was sleeping peacefully now, their home felt safe again, and I'd remember why it mattered. Marcus and Sarah got serious. By summer, he'd brought her home to meet Mom, and I could see the family expanding, the circle of protection growing wider. Sarah was curious about the traditional ways, respectful. She started learning Navajo, started attending ceremonies. When Marcus finally told her about what had happened on Route 66, she believed him without hesitation. "I grew up in Oklahoma," she said. "My grandmother was Cherokee. She told me stories about similar things, different names, different forms, but the same darkness underneath. I always believed her. The world is bigger and stranger than most people know." 1 year after our encounter at the trading post, Marcus came home for the weekend. We'd been planning it for weeks, a return trip, but different this time. Not running, not fighting. Just acknowledging. We left early on a Saturday morning, just the two of us. Mom wanted to come, but she had a ceremony scheduled for another family. "Go," she said. "Make your peace with it. Honor what happened." The drive was easy, filled with music and conversation. Marcus told me about his classes, his plans to transfer to a 4-year school. He was thinking about studying social work, maybe working with Native youth. "Someone needs to be there," he said, "for kids going through what we went through. Someone who understands both worlds." "You'd be good at that," I said. We reached the trading post around noon. It looked different in daylight, less menacing. Time and weather had been hard on it, more windows broken, part of the roof collapsed. It was clearly just an abandoned building now, no trace of the malevolence that had inhabited it. We didn't go inside. Instead, we walked around to the back, where a small cemetery stood. Most of the headstones were weathered beyond reading, but we found one that was newer, placed there within the last year. It read, "Here lies the owner of Red Rock Trading Post, name unknown, died 1949. May he rest in peace." "Who put this here?" Marcus wondered. "Maybe Mom," I said. "Or maybe the universe has its own ways of bringing balance." We stood there for a while, saying nothing, just being present. The desert wind blew warm and steady. A hawk circled overhead, riding the thermals. Everything felt right. Finally, Marcus spoke. "Do you ever regret it? That we came this way last summer?" "Sometimes," I admitted. "But then I think about what we learned. About what we became. We could have lived our whole lives never knowing about any of this, but we also would have been less aware. Less connected to our heritage. Less able to help others." "Grandmother planned it," Marcus said suddenly. "Didn't she? She knew something like this would happen. That's why she prepared everything, left all those instructions. Maybe. Or maybe she just knew that the darkness is always there, and someone in every generation needs to know how to face it." We left small offerings, cornmeal, a pinch of tobacco, a prayer. Then we walked back to the truck. As we were pulling away, I looked in the rearview mirror one last time. In the heat shimmer, I thought I saw 2 figures standing by the cemetery, an old man in 1940s clothes and a younger man in traditional dress. They waved. I waved back. "You see them?" Marcus asked. "Yeah." "Good." I was worried I was hallucinating. We both laughed, and it felt good. The fear was gone, replaced by understanding, by respect, by the knowledge that we'd done something important and done it right. I enrolled at Northern Arizona University that fall, studying architecture. It was strange being back in school at 24, but I was focused in a way I'd never been as a younger student. I knew what I wanted now, to build things that brought people together, spaces that fostered community and balance. Marcus transferred to NAU as well, so we could be roommates again. Sarah moved to Flagstaff too, getting a job at the Museum of Northern Arizona while finishing her graduate work. Our apartment became a gathering place, friends and family flowing through constantly. We hosted dinners, study sessions, ceremony preparations. Life was full. One evening in October, about a year and a half after everything had happened, we were all sitting on the porch, me, Marcus, Sarah, Mom, and a few friends from school. Someone had brought a guitar, and we were singing badly and laughing about it. The sun was setting, painting the San Francisco peaks orange and purple. "This is it," Sarah said suddenly. "This is what life's supposed to be. Right here." Hazo, Marcus said, smiling. Exactly, Mom agreed. Beauty, harmony, balance. It's not something you achieve once and then it's done. It's something you practice every day. Every moment. Every choice. Even the hard ones, I added. Especially the hard ones. We sat in comfortable silence, watching the stars emerge one by one. Somewhere in the distance, a coyote howled, just a regular coyote, nothing supernatural about it. But none of us flinched. We knew the difference now. We knew what was normal wildlife and what was something else. "Do you think it's really over?" asked James, a friend from one of my classes. "The Skinwalker thing?" "That one is," Marcus said. "But there are others. There will always be others. People who choose darkness, who abandon balance. It's part of the world. But there will always be people who choose the other path too," Sarah said. "People who stand against the darkness. Who help others find their way back. That's part of the world too." "Which side are you on?" James asked. We all looked at each other and smiled. "The side of balance," Mom said simply. "That's the only side that matters." 5 years later, Marcus and Sarah got married. The ceremony was held on the reservation, at a traditional hogan that Mom's family maintained. It was beautiful, a mix of Navajo tradition and contemporary elements, honoring both worlds we lived in. I stood as Marcus's best man, and as I watched him exchange vows, I thought about how far we'd come. From two scared kids running from something we didn't understand, to men who'd learned to face the darkness and help others do the same. The journey had transformed us in ways we could never have imagined. During the reception, an elder named Thomas Begay approached me. He was distant relation of Raymond's, and he'd heard the story of what we'd done. "You gave him peace," Thomas said. "My cousin Raymond. He'd been a curse on our family for 3 generations. Children afraid to go outside at night. Strange deaths. Bad luck following us. But after you did the ceremony, all that ended. Our family has been at peace. I wanted to thank you." "It was our grandmother's knowledge," I said. "We just followed her instructions." "No," he said firmly. "Knowledge is important, but action is what matters. You had the courage to face him. You gave him the choice to return to balance. That was you, not just your grandmother." He pressed something into my hand, a small turquoise stone, perfectly smooth. "This belonged to Raymond, from before he turned. I found it in some old family belongings. I think he'd want you to have it. To remember that even the darkest paths can lead back to light, if someone is willing to walk beside you." I closed my fingers around the stone, feeling its smoothness, its warmth. "Thank you." That night, after the dancing and celebrating ended, I stood outside under the stars. The same stars that had looked down on us during our terrifying journey, during our confrontation with Raymond, during all the moments of fear and courage that had brought us here. Marcus came to stand beside me, his arm around Sarah's shoulders. "Think we'll ever have to do something like that again?" he asked. "Probably," I said. "The work never really ends. But that's okay. It's good work." "It is," Sarah agreed. "Though maybe next time without quite so much mortal peril." We all laughed. But we knew the truth. Walking in balance, standing against darkness, helping others find their way, it wasn't always safe. It wasn't always easy. But it was necessary. It was what our grandmother had prepared us for. It was what we'd been called to do. 10 years after that summer on Route 66, I stood at the grand opening of my first major project as an architect, a community center on the reservation. It was designed to be a gathering place, with spaces for ceremonies, for classes, for kids to play and elders to share stories. Every element had been chosen to promote balance and harmony, natural materials, circular designs, lots of light. Mom cut the ribbon, and the crowd cheered. Marcus was there with Sarah and their 2 children, a boy and a girl. The kids ran around with other children, their laughter echoing off the walls. During the ceremony, a group of medicine people blessed the building. They used the traditional prayers, the old ways that our grandmother had helped preserve. And standing among them, I felt her presence. Not haunting, not scary. Just there, proud, watching her grandchildren carry on her work in their own way. After the ceremony, a young woman approached me. She couldn't have been more than 18, with nervous eyes and a tense posture I recognized. "Are you Tommy Benali?" she asked. "I am. I need help. Something's following me. Something wrong. My grandmother told me you and your brother, you know how to deal with things like this. Please." I don't know who else to ask. I looked over at Marcus. He'd heard the conversation and was already walking over. We exchanged a glance, a whole conversation in that one look. Here we go again. You ready? Always. Together. Always together. Come inside, I said to the girl. Let's talk. We'll figure this out. And we did. Over the next few weeks, we helped her. It wasn't a skinwalker this time, but something else, a spirit disturbed by construction, angry and confused. We performed a ceremony to honor it, to give it peace, to restore balance. The girl learned to protect herself, learned the prayers, learned to walk in beauty. She was the 37th person we'd helped over the years. She wouldn't be the last. 15 years after our encounter on Route 66, I received a CA. from Marcus. His voice was tight with worry. "Tommy, it's Noah. He's seeing things." Noah was his son, now 12 years old. Smart kid, artistic, sensitive. And apparently, like his father and uncle before him, gifted with the sight that ran in our family. What's he seeing? Animals that aren't quite right. Shadows that move wrong. He woke up last night screaming about yellow eyes at his window. "Tommy, I thought we'd have more time before this started for him. He's just a kid." "We were just kids too, in a way," I said. "When did this start?" "About a week ago. Right after we visited those old ruins near Chaco. He wandered off while we weren't watching, went into one of the ceremonial kivas. When we found him, he was standing in the center, staring at nothing but his eyes." Marcus's voice broke slightly. His eyes looked like he'd seen something terrible. "I'm coming to Albuquerque," I said. "Tonight. We'll figure this out together. Just like always. Just like always." I made the drive in record time, arriving at their house around midnight. Marcus met me at the door, and we went up to Noah's room. The boy was awake, sitting up in bed, clutching a flashlight like a weapon. When he saw me, he relaxed slightly. "Uncle Tommy. Dad said you'd come." "Of course I did." I sat on the edge of his bed. "Your dad tells me you've been seeing some strange things." Noah nodded. At first I thought I was imagining it. Like maybe I was just tired or stressed from school. But it keeps happening. "And last night." He shuddered. "Last night it spoke to me. It said my name. It knew my name." I looked at Marcus. This was serious. Whatever Noah had encountered, it had marked him. "Noah, I need to tell you a story," I said. "About what happened to your dad and me when we were young. About what we learned. About what runs in our family." I told him everything. The trading post, the skinwalker, the chase, the confrontation. I told him about his great-grandmother's wisdom, about Raymond Begay's redemption, about the work we'd done since then. Noah listened with wide eyes, not interrupting once. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "So I'm not crazy. This is real. It's real. But here's the important thing, you're not helpless. You have gifts, Noah. The same gifts that run through our whole family. The sight, yes, but also the ability to stand against darkness. The ability to help restore balance. But I'm just 12. Your dad was 19 when he first faced a skinwalker. I was 23. Maybe 12 is young, but age doesn't matter as much as courage and willingness to learn. And you're not alone. You have your dad, you have me, you have your grandmother. We'll teach you what you need to know." "What if I'm scared?" Being scared is okay. We were terrified. But we did what needed doing anyway. That's what courage is, not the absence of fear, but acting despite it. Over the next few months, we trained. Noah. Not in the way you train a warrior, but in the way our grandmother had taught us, through prayer, through ceremony, through learning to maintain balance in all things. Sarah, who'd been studying traditional ways for years now, helped too. We taught him the blessing prayers, how to recognize genuine threats versus normal animals, how to use corn pollen and sage for protection. We taught him about Hazo, about walking in beauty, about the importance of community and balance. Most importantly, we taught him that the darkness was only part of the story. For every Skinwalker, there were 100 people living good lives, maintaining balance, helping their neighbors. For every moment of terror, there were 1,000 moments of beauty and joy and connection. Noah's test came sooner than we hoped. 3 months into his training, while staying at my place for the weekend, we were awakened by scratching at the door. Noah appeared in my bedroom doorway, pale but composed. "Uncle Tommy. It's here." I got up, grabbing the medicine bundle we always kept ready. "What did you see?" "Coyote. But its legs bent wrong. And its eyes." He didn't need to finish. "Okay. This is what we trained for. What's the first step? Don't engage directly. Don't show fear. Maintain the protections." "Good. What else?" "Remember that it feeds on isolation and terror. It's weaker when we're together and strong." "Perfect. So what do we do?" Noah thought for a moment, and I could see him working through everything we taught him. "We don't run. We don't hide. We bless the house. We strengthen the circle. We remind it that this is our space, protected and balanced, and it has no power here." I smiled. "Exactly right. Let's do it together." We went through the house methodically, Noah leading the way, me following to support but letting him take the lead. He blessed each doorway, each window, speaking the prayers in Navajo with growing confidence. The scratching followed us from room to room, but it grew weaker as we worked. Finally, we stood at the front door. The scratching was right outside, insistent but frustrated. "Now what?" Noah asked. "Now we give it a choice. Same choice we gave Raymond Begay. We acknowledge what it is, but we offer it the path back to balance. Some take it. Some don't. But we always offer." Noah took a deep breath, then spoke through the door, his young voice clear and strong. "I know what you are. I know what you've chosen. But you don't have to be this. You can find your way back. There's always a path back to balance, no matter how far you've strayed. If you want help, we'll help you. If you want to remain in darkness, then you have no power here. This house is protected. This family is protected. Go find your peace elsewhere." The scratching stopped. In the silence that followed, I felt something shift. Then, very faintly, I heard a sound like wind chimes, like the space where the entity had been was now empty. Noah Ned to look at me. "Did I do it right?" "You did it perfectly. I'm proud of you." He sagged with relief, and I saw he was shaking. The adrenaline was wearing off, leaving him exhausted. I put my arm around his shoulders. "You okay?" "Yeah. I mean, I'm terrified. But also I feel like I understand now. Why this matters. Why we do this. Why do we do it? Because someone has to. Because we have the knowledge and the gifts. Because every person we help, every spirit we give peace to, every time we restore balance, that's one more light in the darkness. And enough lights can push back any shadow." I hugged him. "Your great-grandmother would be so proud of you." "I'm proud of you." We made hot chocolate and sat on the couch until dawn, talking about everything and nothing. By the time the sun rose, the fear had faded, replaced by a quiet confidence. Noah had faced his first real test and passed it. He wasn't ready for everything yet, he was still young, still learning. But he'd taken the first real step on the path our family walked. As years passed, the work continued. Noah grew into his gifts, becoming confident in his abilities while maintaining the humility necessary for this kind of work. His sister Emma, 2 years younger, showed different talents. She had a gift for healing, for bringing calm to chaotic situations. Marcus and Sarah trained both children, creating a new generation of protectors. But they also taught them balance. Yes, this work was important, but so was normal life. So was school and friends and sports and hobbies and all the mundane beautiful things that make up a life. I got married too, to a woman named Jennifer who I met at a gallery showing my architectural designs. She was white, from Boston, with no connection to Navajo culture or supernatural experiences. I thought long and hard about telling her the truth about our family's calling. When I finally did, 6 months into our relationship, she listened to the whole story without interrupting. Then she said, "So basically, your family are supernatural social workers?" I laughed, surprised. I guess that's one way to put it. That's amazing. Terrifying, but amazing. Can I help? You want to help? Tommy, I've spent my whole life feeling like something was missing. Like there was more to the world than what I could see. If you're telling me there's actual work to be done, actual good to be accomplished, of course I want to help. So she learned too. Not the deep spiritual aspects, those required cultural context and hereditary gifts, but practical things. How to recognize when someone needed help. How to create safe spaces. How to support people going through supernatural crises. She brought her own skills to the work, her background in psychology and counseling proving invaluable. Our family grew. Marcus and Sarah had a third child. Mom continued teaching both at school and within the community. Jennifer and I adopted 2 children, siblings from the reservation who'd been orphaned. Both showed signs of the gifts that ran in our bloodline, though we later learned they came from a different line of medicine people. Maybe it wasn't just about heredity, maybe it was about calling. We built a network over the years. Other families with similar knowledge and abilities. Medicine people from different tribes, each with their own traditions but all working toward the same goal, maintaining balance, helping the lost, standing against darkness. It wasn't formal. No organization, no hierarchy. Just people who knew, who understood, who answered the call when it came. We shared information, helped each other, learned from each other's traditions and experiences. 25 years after our first journey, Marcus suggested we take another road trip on Route 66. This time, it was a family affair. Marcus, Sarah, their 3 kids, Jennifer, our 2 kids, and Mom, now in her 70s but still sharp and strong. We took 2 vehicles, driving the old road where it still existed, taking our time, stopping at the roadside attractions and diners and historical markers. It was a celebration of how far we'd come, how much we'd learned, how the darkness we'd faced had ultimately led to light. When we reached the spot where the Red Rock trading post had stood, we found it was gone. Not abandoned, actually gone. According to locals, a fire had destroyed it a few years earlier. Nothing suspicious, just old wiring finally giving up. The land had been cleared, and now wildflowers grew where the building had stood. "It's beautiful," Noah said, now 22 and in graduate school studying anthropology. "It's like the land healed itself." "Or we healed it," Emma added. She was 20 and studying to be a nurse, combining Western medicine with traditional healing practices. We got out and walked around the area. The desert had reclaimed everything, the old cars, the parking lot, all of it was disappearing under sage and grass and flowers. The cemetery out back remained, maintained by someone though we never learned who. We stood in a circle where the trading post had been and performed a blessing ceremony. Not because there was any darkness left, there wasn't, but because blessing and gratitude were as important as protection and banishment. Maybe more important. Mom led the ceremony, her voice strong and clear despite her age. "We thank the land for receiving back what was corrupted. We thank the spirits who waited so long for peace. We thank our ancestors who gave us the knowledge we needed. We thank each other for having the courage to walk this path. And we commit to continuing this work, for as long as we're needed, with grace and humility and love." We each added our own prayers, each child and adult speaking from the heart. Jennifer's prayer was simple: thank you for showing me that the world is bigger and more beautiful than I ever imagined. Thank you for letting me be part of this family, this work, this journey. As we finished, a wind kicked up, warm and gentle, carrying the scent of sage. For just a moment, I felt a presence, not threatening, just there. Our grandmother, maybe. Or Raymond Begay, checking in. Or just the land itself, acknowledging what we'd done. Then it passed, and we were just a family standing in a field of wildflowers under a clear blue sky. Ice cream? Jennifer suggested. I saw a place back in Santa Rosa. The kids cheered, and we piled back into the vehicles. As we drove away, I looked in the rearview mirror one last time. The field of flowers. The mountains in the distance. The endless sky. Hazo. Beauty. Balance. Harmony. This is what we'd fought for. This is what we'd protected. This is what we'd continue to protect, for as long as we were needed. ## epilogue, the story continues. Now I'm 53 years old. Marcus is 49. Our children are adults, some with children of their own. Mom passed peacefully 2 years ago, surrounded by family, her work complete. But the knowledge she preserved, the path she helped us walk, continues. We still get calls. Less frequently now, most of the work has passed to the younger generation. But sometimes, when a situation is particularly difficult or dangerous, they call us in. The old guys. The ones who've been doing this for decades. And we go, because this work doesn't retire you. It's a calling, not a job. Last month, Noah called. He'd been contacted by a family in Montana, Crow Nation, dealing with something they couldn't handle alone. Would we come? Of course we would. That's what family does. That's what our calling demands. As I write this, sitting on my porch in Flagstaff, watching the sun set over the peaks, I think about that scared 23-year-old who drove Route 66 25 years ago with his brother. Who saw something that shouldn't exist. Who learned that the world was bigger and stranger and more wonderful than he'd ever imagined. That journey changed everything. It gave me purpose. It gave me family, not just blood family, but a whole network of people committed to the same work. It taught me about courage, about balance, about the importance of standing against darkness not with violence but with compassion. The Skinwalker that hunted us became the catalyst for something beautiful. The darkness we faced revealed the light we could bring. The fear we felt became the courage we needed. And the work continues. It will always continue. Because there will always be darkness in the world, people who choose corruption, spirits lost and angry, imbalances that need to be restored. But there will also always be people like us. People who remember the old ways. People who choose balance over chaos, compassion over fear, community over isolation. My grandchildren are growing up hearing these stories, learning these lessons. Some of them show the gifts. Some don't. It doesn't matter. They're all learning to walk in beauty, to maintain balance, to stand for what's right even when it's hard. That's the real legacy. Not supernatural powers or secret knowledge, but the commitment to making the world a little better, a little more balanced, one act at a time. The sun has set now. Stars are appearing, the same stars that shone on our terrifying flight across the desert, on our confrontation with Raymond Begay, on every moment of this journey. Jennifer comes out with 2 cups of tea. Thinking about the old days, she asks, sitting beside me. Always. Any regrets? None. Well, maybe one. I wish we could tell grandmother thank you. Really thank her, face to face, for everything she prepared for us. I think she knows, Jennifer says. I think she's always known. We sit in comfortable silence, sipping our tea, watching the stars. Somewhere out there, someone is facing their own darkness, their own fear. Maybe they'll find their way to us. Maybe they'll find someone else who knows how to help. Or maybe they'll find the strength within themselves. But they won't face it alone. None of us face it alone. That's the real secret, the real power. We're all connected, the living and the dead, the human and the spiritual, the past and the present and the future. Walking together in balance, helping each other find the way, maintaining the beauty and harmony that makes life worth living. This is the story of how a skinwalker took my brother and how we took him back. How we faced the darkness and found the light. How we learned to walk in beauty. And how that journey, that terrible and wonderful journey, shaped everything that came after. It's not the end of the story. Stories like this don't end. They just continue, generation after generation, each adding their own chapter, their own experiences, their own wisdom. And somewhere, in the vast darkness, our grandmother smiles. Her work lives on. Her knowledge preserved. Her legacy secure. The circle unbroken. Hazo. Walk in beauty. In all things, in all ways, forever. And now, dear listener, as you drift towards sleep, remember this: the world is bigger than you know, stranger than you imagine, and more beautiful than you can comprehend. There are dark things in it, yes, but there are also people standing against that darkness, maintaining balance, walking in beauty. You are not alone. You have never been alone. Close your eyes now, and rest easy. The protections are in place. The prayers have been said. The circle is complete. Sleep well, and walk in beauty. The end.